today at the Career Moves Group event at the Ivy restaurant in London, talking about emotional resilience, which I think is one of the most important things that organisations should be thinking about at the moment. Every organisation, because of the economic climate, is having to think about how to deliver more with less. Everyone is under more pressure, organisations are under more pressure, and because of that, the emotional resilience of the people who work within those organisations is more important than ever. Having said it's more important, I think it's also worth stressing that emotional resilience can be developed and can be built up inside organisations, but it's really important to know how to go about doing that, what kind of strategies and methods are available to organisations to get the competitive advantage that better levels of resilience will bring. Okay, so what is it first? One of the things that you will hear other people talk about, and you might read, is that resilience is about bouncing back. Okay, yes, technically that might be what the term resilience means. I think it's more than that, and in some ways it's more positive than that. It's more preventative than it is about saying, oh, I've been really hit, I'm resilient because I'm bouncing back. I think it's about sustaining oneself when the going gets tough. And there are two components to it. The psychological one, which is about keeping psychologically healthy, and I'll talk quite a bit about that in a moment or two. And a behavioural component, which, if you like, is about times are hard, lots of adversity, I can stay focused on what I'm supposed to be doing, and I can stay well at the same time. So that for me is what I'm talking about, and that's what resilience is. Quite a lot of people in organisations can be uncomfortable with the term resilience because of its link to adversity, and because people might say, oh yes, so I need to be resilient now, goodness me, what's going to happen next? You know, what are you planning that I don't know about? Quite a few organisations use different terms. For me, when you look at what they're actually thinking about and trying to do, it's really all focused on the same stuff. Vitality, energy, flexibility, mental toughness, hardiness, and so on. For me, they're all variations on the same theme of resilience. Okay, why does it matter? First, it matters for every single person in this room. And the next 10 minutes, if you haven't seen any of this stuff already, might end up being quite scary. It was for me when I looked at all of the literature and seen it develop over the last few years. First, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, what's the strength of the evidence linking psychological health and well-being with physical health and well-being? Yeah, it's pretty good, but for people who know the research, you could have got them involved in a debate about how strong the link is there really a powerful link? I don't think anybody who knows the literature now would take you on in terms of that debate. The evidence in favour of if you don't look after your psychological health, it will have an impact on your physical health is just too big. There's too much of it. These are only the longitudinal studies. That's the studies that look prospectively over time. There are lots of other studies too. They all point in the same direction. A couple of question marks here. There are some studies that show a result sometimes and not others. Smiling is a good one. Photographs of yearbooks from 40 or 50 years ago and follow-up studies. People who were smiling in the majority of these studies actually live longer than the ones who weren't. Smile. All of these are well established. There are some suggestive studies showing links with cancer too, but again, there's a bit of a balance one way and the other. Okay, so there's an effect, there's a link. Quite a lot of times you see some of these findings from this type of literature and you think, yeah, okay, but how big an effect is it? Yes, I know there's a relationship, but a lot of these studies are 40, 50, 100,000 people. You can have a tiny effect with that bigger study, statistically. That's probably the most significant bullet on this slide. That the size of the effect here is very similar. I've just taken this quote from a meta-analysis that's pulling together all the studies that are available. It's similar to other well-established risk factors such as smoking and diet. So we're looking at something here that is a real risk factor. How does it work? Nobody really knows in full detail, but it's probably something like this. These are some biological markers. And again, this is a single study, but there are quite lots of other ones. Linking positive psychological well-being with, negative psychological well-being with these factors, so higher risk factors. Positive well-being is protective against those factors. So that's another point I want to make here. When I talk about well-being at work, I'm not just talking about stress or stress-related illness. I'm talking about everybody in the workforce, and just elevating their well-being a little bit will pay dividends. And I'm talking about every one of us as well. Okay, finally, let me just talk a little bit about issues to do with building resilience as such. I would like to be able to say that there's absolutely 100% cast iron confidence any resilience program will produce a result. I think we're still waiting for the evidence in the proper refereed scientific literature to accumulate there. There's a lot of it, but it's probably not quite enough yet to be really confident. Because what you need to do, take some pre-measures, randomly assign people to training, train them, and then take some post-measures. And you need control groups, etc., to be really confident about what's working. Now there are quite a lot of studies of that kind already. All of these fall into that category. And so there is, personally, I think resilience training works, and I don't think there's any doubt about it. What I'm saying is the hard evidence is not quite absolutely there yet. Some illustrative studies. 4.5-month follow-up with sales agents, improved job satisfaction, well-being and productivity. Returning people to work after long-term illness, 6-month follow-up. Some physiological data here, cortisol responses with police officers after resilience training, 12-month follow-up. And this one's with doctors, physicians, an 8-week follow-up period, improvements in anxiety, stress, quality of life. And there are plenty of other studies, so it does seem like resilience training works. You can make a difference, it seems, from anything from as short as an hour to a 2 or 3 day program, spread out over time or really concentrated and focused. Where the evidence comes from, the kind of studies I've talked about before, and also quite a lot of research looking at different situations where people are confronted with lots of adversity. At the extreme end of that, one lot of studies looked at American GIs in the Hanoi Hilton, where they were imprisoned in some cases for 7 years in solitary confinement. That's, pretty extreme adversity. And some people do quite well, some people don't. And then on a more mundane level, people working in organisations, feeling under pressure, who does well, who does badly. And all of those studies go into this summary here. Things like, well, I'll just pick a few of the key ones out. Optimistic thinking styles. You can teach optimistic thinking, and it's not about stand in front of the mirror in the morning and go, I'm going to have a great day. don't think that'll do you any good at all, actually, apart from make you feel a bit daft if anybody sees you doing it. But you can buy, it's all to do with what's referred to as attributional style, which is about how you attribute causes for things that go well, successes if you like, and things that go badly, failures. And if you understand how to do both of those, deal with and understand your successes and your failures, you can stay on a more optimistic, positive level. Tough challenges don't have to come up on resilience programs. They can come up on a day-to-day work basis. And again, there's quite a lot of literature that shows people who've experienced tough challenges in their life, even early on in their lives, if it doesn't really damage them, come out stronger from a resilience point of view. Don't stay in the comfort zone. Get out into the stretch zone. But the best things to do that with are the things where you're already strong. Not what happens with most people, what are my development needs, which are the things I'm worst at, oh, I'm going to really put myself out there on those. It's the wrong way around. That's looking at it from the wrong end of the telescope, if you like. Build on the signature strengths, build on the things you're good at, but get out of the comfort zone, always pushing yourself into the stretch zone. What that does is gives you a mastery experience. There's a friend of mine who's an Olympic coach, and one thing he does with his athletes, he'll actually push them outside the stretch zone while they're in training. And he does that because then he knows when they're in competition, they've been over the edge, if you like, and they know what it's like to go right out there. It's not frightening to them anymore. Yeah, tough experiences can build resilience, but you need to do the optimistic thinking bit. You need to know how to do that, because if you go through that, you will fail sometimes. It won't always be success. You need the respite. Got to have the gaps and the breaks. The intense experience will damage you if you keep doing it. It's got to seem worth it, so the challenge needs to be, and all of these things are things that you can explore with people and develop in resilience training. Control your thoughts and feelings. That's basically about borrowing stuff from cognitive behaviour therapy and just adapting it for everyday life, really. And that people's goals, ambitions, etc. are properly grounded in reality. If you're trying for something that's impossible, then you're bound to fail and you'll keep failing. Sometimes start to think, okay, so you can do resilience training. That's the solution. That's a good solution, and in a way it's an easy solution because you don't have to change anything else in the organisation, and you know that's in its favour. But there are probably three areas, or 3 or 4 areas where you can really do something, and I refer to it as mainstreaming resilience because it's really about drawing this stuff in to things that are part of everyday HR experience in organisations. Management and leadership development, the issue there is about people understanding the factors that challenge resilience of others in the workplace, and even more so, their own impact on the resilience of others. We have a tool, for instance, Leadership Impact Tool, which gives managers a feed out on your likely impact on the well-being and resilience of people who report to you. Somebody who sits in a quiet room, processing data, very complex, very difficult. They don't really interact with many other people during the day. They do have to make rapid decisions, process very difficult data. Some people can cope with that. Take that person, put them into a situation where they have to deal with challenging others on a regular basis, they might find that very difficult. Similarly, the person who can cope with the challenging others, put them in the quiet room with masses of data coming at them, they might find that too demanding. So it's not about are you resilient, are you not resilient. It's about understanding someone's resilience profile. And then you can use that in development, in talent management, in selection, etc. Also, attracting people to the organisation. High well-being scores, etc. We all know about the best companies and so on. There's a free, just complete a questionnaire, you get your own personal resilience report. It's not just free as a special offer, it's a free resource that we put out there, so you can use it with anybody in your organisation as long as you like, and we're never going to start charging for it. And it is a properly researched and developed tool. There's the Morale and Resilience Guide that I mentioned earlier on, and there are other things too. And that's me done. Thank you.